Can you hear me?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Play guitar?
Yeah, I love the guitar. It's I guess it's a good instrument just for just jamming out.
Just acoustic, or what else can you play?
I also play the electric and piano.
Yeah, where do you live, by the way? It's out of curiosity.
Oh, well, it's near London in the UK.
Gotcha.
No.
So,
Yeah. So yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about the connection and.
I don't know. That's probably both our faults, and Google, because Google's a jackass. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we were talking about how society doesn't seem to believe in women, or it's led women to believe either that their innate skills like child rearing, teaching, nourishing, and nurturing is no longer something that it's not a lucrative. I mean, they don't believe in themselves. They feel as if they need to either. I feel like the third wave feminists have pushed some kind of inferiority complex on women, which have led them
Yeah,
to
I think
believe.
absolutely. I personally, I think that's part of the point of feminism. I think in order for feminism to keep living, women have to be oppressed, or there has to be something to fight against. And if these feminists acknowledge the fact that women not only have power and influence, well, then they'd realize that they exist for no reason, and thus their identity would crumble before their very eyes. I think that's a gigantic part of feminism is our third wave feminism is that they have to constantly figure out ways women are oppressed, because if they acknowledge women aren't oppressed, then they got nothing. They don't have a leg to stand on.
So yeah, I would agree with you there. I'll say for me, the biggest issue is the fact that it's the people conducting so-called feminism. I mean, if it was more of a actual equality movement, I do agree with a lot of what I guess you guys say. It's that they actually disregard any male rights issues. For example, issues of person. I mean, for example, let's say a woman was to get pregnant, and she would tell the partner or the sexual contact that she was pregnant with his child, and the man would say, "I do not want to be involved in this pregnancy. Please terminate the child." And the obviously she can't actually do that. He can't tell her to do that because it's her own body. But I do feel like men should have the right to actually, at least legally, opt out of a relationship, as in a sense saying, okay, I do not, you do not have to give me the right to see this child, but please do not, I do not want to have any more money. I do not want my money to be used in this child's growth, because I do not condone to this child being born. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
and I agree with that completely. Actually, I do think men should have the ability, if the terms were verbally, not even verbally stated, but contractually stated. I don't even know
Yeah.
how you'd write a contract, but if a man made it clear that he did not want to have a child with a woman when they had sex, and she got pregnant anyway, I think absolutely he should have the right to opt out of financially, especially if it was clearly indicated or it was said, and they had a verbal agreement or any agreement, and they said that. Then I say absolutely, men should be able to terminate their responsibility. Now, personally, I wouldn't want that to happen personally, but I do think men should have the ability to do so. Yes.
Okay. Do you believe in? I guess, do you believe in abortion? Do you believe women should be allowed to be to abort if they want, if they choose to, or what's your views on that?
I say not out of convenience. Yeah, if you, I don't think any woman should abort just because she doesn't want to take care of the child. Say if there are any medical issues, is in danger, when a woman's life is in danger, I say absolutely should, but not out of convenience. No, I don't think anyone should get an abortion out of convenience.
Okay. Would that lead you to do you believe that I guess a fetus is some kind of human, I guess, or shares a lot.
Well, it is a human. We talking about some kind of human. It doesn't become a human. It is a human.
It's just I guess low. I guess here in the UK, many people actually would say that. I guess many people would say that abortion rights. See, I mean, this is part of my argument. Is the fact that depending on the time that you live in, society's I guess mainstream belief systems change. For example, 100,
Well,
100
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, 100 years ago, for example, in the UK, many people believed abortion was wrong. I mean, they really went against it. They rallied against it. But now it almost seems as if you're on the wrong side. If, for example, you think abortion shouldn't be. So if you think that women should so-called have a choice, like an unlimited amount of choice whether they want to abort, meaning they got pregnant because they just didn't use contraception, or they were just careless, or maybe they had unprotected sex but they didn't take the morning after pill. You're familiar with that, or?
Yes, I know what that is.
I mean, I somehow I do feel like there's so much chances for majority women, not all women, but majority of women to basically not get pregnant, and I feel like because of society, yeah, for society's movement towards so-called women having the choice to abort, or basically no, having a choice with their bodies, I feel like it's actually giving them this false sense of security where basically no matter what happens, they could always just have an abortion.
Yeah,
so,
and if we go brass tacks, I can always just kill my child. If it's you're killing your seed, so there's no way around that. And I think the topic always gets framed as a woman's choice, but if we're gonna go brass tacks, something's gonna die in that transaction. Something's going to die, no matter what. And so you are terminating some type of life, and it isn't just a woman's choice either, because a man had to be involved in that too. Which is why I say I don't think any man would ask you to. I'm sure there might be some, but I think majority of men would rather take the financial abortion than to say terminate the pregnancy. Which is why I think men should have it.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. So, but I mean, I guess do you not feel somehow? Yeah.
Go ahead.
You go ahead first.
Well, one thing I was going to ask, just because it's just one point, even if cultural ideas change, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea or it's the correct way to be. For example, everyone loves to pull it up, but it's a good example. Germany and the Nazis. Even though it was a small percentage of Germans who actually became Nazis, gigantic culture hated Jewish people, because of a number of reasons why they hated Jewish people, but just because a bunch of people hated them or a bunch of people agreed, that didn't make it a right thing to do. So simply because society as a whole says this is a good idea, it doesn't objectively make it a good idea. But go ahead, what were you saying?
Yeah, I see. I agree with you that. I mean, I guess it's conformity, and I am definitely against the idea of conformity, and that's why I guess I'm conflicted rather with the issues of feminism. I mean, on one hand, I disagree with the third wave feminist rhetoric and ranting on social media and even normal media, but at the same time, I feel there's some issues, for example, role models and issues of, I guess, personhood. A woman, I guess, I feel women are not given the same. I guess they just don't love themselves as much as they used to anymore. I mean, for example, my girlfriend, she's an exception, right? She's a strong, good-willed, educated person, and she's still one of those people who I guess you would call old school. Like into providing a good service to you. She doesn't mind so-called submitting herself in some aspects in order. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't feel inferior if she has.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I feel women are trying too hard to become like men because they no longer love themselves. And
I would agree with you. And that's the thing, even in some of the videos that I make, I do stress that point. There's a lot of women who definitely have low self-esteem and just don't know how to love themselves, and they don't know how to be loved by men. So, I stress that a lot. A lot of women are definitely trying to, be like men, be the provider. And a lot of them are finding out that they don't want to be that way. But because, they had this movement of feminism shoved down their throat for years, they don't know, how to be women. I think that might be the best way to put it. I don't think a lot of women really know what does it mean to be feminine without being overly sexual. What does it mean to be a woman? If you disconnect, womanhood from childbearing, then, I don't think a lot of women ever thought, what else is there? I mean, a lot of women have been defined by taking care of children or taking care of people. And if you disconnect that from them, I mean, what do they have left, And
Yeah.
that's not really something I think I could come up with. I don't have the answer to that, what it means to be a woman. But I do think it's something that a lot of young ladies should ponder because, I don't know, give them some kind of idea of what to strive for.
That's true. Could you give me 1 second? I'll be back in a second.
All right. Wonder how I look at the comments on here, though. What's going on, everybody? It's only 4 people watching now. Hope you guys are enjoying the conversation. No, I'm kind of boring. I'm just talking to people. So as always, I hope you guys get something out of that discussion. If you are making comments, keep doing so. I might have to find them after the show and see what you guys have to say. Oh snap! Figured out a way to comment in the comment section. Abortions over poverty, huh? Well, I don't know. A lot of people of character get built out of poverty. Well, I guess saying a lot of thieves also come out of poverty too. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Have I ever retro gamed? Yeah. I mean, not very often, but I have. I think I played Castlevania once. But abortion over poverty. That's very simple, but very interesting. I don't know. I don't think I could ever ask a woman to abort my child. Just so.
Hello, sorry.
I'll be back on. Yeah, I was just talking. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I'm back now. So yeah, for example, the issues of abortion. So for you, I guess you'd only. What about in situations of rape? Would that be? I guess what
Well,
we.
I don't know. My opinion on that's changed slightly. Honestly, I don't really think a woman should get an abortion if she's been raped. And my reasoning is, I think women can heal from that negative experience. I don't think that if you get raped, that you're forced to be, damaged forever. So that being said, I do think that it is possible to recover from damage and, I mean, maybe not necessarily, raise a child, but at least, be able to let them be born and then live their life. Because I remember just the other day, a friend of mine told me that there's a pair of twins that it wasn't even his girlfriend, but just some girl he knew. It's a long story, but basically, her mom got raped and she had a set of twins, and she kept them. So I mean, some women will keep them and will take care of them, but
Hmm.
I don't really think a woman should. But personally, I think I don't know. Like if I was the king of America, I think I might give them that option, but only because I don't want a child to be raised by a woman that doesn't care about them.
Hates her, or him, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I'll say for this issue, I think it's more of a societal issue. Again, I feel like so-called abused women. There's this notion that rape is the worst kind of crime that could happen. I mean, I guess I
Yeah,
guess
and I
I can't.
disagree with that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm not a woman, so I could never. I mean, men get raped too, but we're talking from a woman's perspective. So I guess since we're not women, we can't really say that. And I guess because women value their sexuality above most things. But I feel like rape is not the worst thing that could happen to a person. I mean, worse things happen. I mean, I guess losing a hand or foot in most situations.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would.
I
Yeah,
would,
personally, I
I
would agree with
would
that.
rape than lose a hand or foot, and because it's just so much. Or someone who's been scarred by in their face, where they have to relive that. They have to relive that moment every time someone looks at them. Asks them the question, "What happened?" With rape, I'm not saying that it's good to hide what happened, but I mean, you can get over it yourself with just introspection, psychological treatment, and I guess I think it's a fact that we no longer. I think we treat women like children. We don't allow them to come to their own conclusions about their situations, and we kind of project our own feelings on them. So in a sense that we tell women, "You've been abused. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to you. Therefore, you can never be okay again. Therefore, you can't keep that child." I think it's the fact that women feel like this is the worst thing, so they will never get over it, and now they can't keep this child because it will only remind them of what terrible thing has happened to them.
Yeah, I think I personally think it's a huge disservice to instill a deathly level of fear of rape within women. Because to be fair, it certainly is not a crime that happens very often. Although it does happen in America, it's just not as often as other crimes. And that's why I think you should prepare for it should it happen. But I mean, just statistically speaking, it is a very rare crime here.
I
And
mean,
go ahead.
do you think there are steps that can be made to decrease, for example, rape rates? I mean, let's say, for example, the UK. In the UK, overall crime is a lot lower than the US. I mean, I think in the US you have over 2 million. I think you guys have the highest incarceration rate in the whole world, like higher than China and Russia. I mean, that's quite high. And you're smaller than China, and I think similar size to Russia. Maybe a little bit. You're bigger than Russia a little bit, but still, I never really understood that. Does it mean that the so-called men or women, well, I'm assuming men really, in prisons in America deserve to be there more than the millions of free people in China? Or what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of politics that kind of go into it. There are some men who are in prison based on false rape allegations. Some men in prison based on drugs or other stuff like that. It's not everybody in jail is there because of violent crime or whatnot. So there's a lot of politics that go into it, which is unfortunate. But that's the culture right now. But yeah, you're right. There certainly are a lot of incarcerated people here in America, but not all of them are incarcerated because of violent crimes or anything like that.
But do you think, I guess, for example, something like rape, do you think it can be reduced? Because, for example, in the UK, we no longer have guns. So I'm not saying that the gun crime has decreased, but the police-related incidents have reduced. For example, in the UK, I think in the last century, there've been more police killings in America in the last year than there has been in tens of years in England. So
Yeah.
do you think there's I guess
To
there's
answer your
something that
question,
society? Yeah.
yeah. I think you can reduce the amount of rape that occurs in our society. I don't think you could completely stamp it out forever, but I think you can definitely reduce it.
So do you think there's a level? Do you think there's a level where you have to think about a totalitarian state system and freedom? So basically, autonomy versus totalitarianism. Do you feel there's a niche, like a perfect, or not perfect, but like a compromised understanding between autonomy, freedom, and I guess government, or yeah. How far do you think that line needs to be, like between government, full state control, and autonomy to reduce all crimes, but in this aspect, rape, I guess.
I don't know. I don't think a totalitarian government could do so without a lot of force and a lot of fear, and that's certainly not a situation I want to live in. Trying to figure out a way to answer the question though. I don't know. I don't think you could have a totalitarian government and reconcile freedom and autonomy at the same time. It kind of seems like an oxymoron to me. Because either you have the force of the state crushing down on you, or you don't. You can't really, unless you want to try to, I guess, reduce the amount of power the state has. But then it would be totalitarian. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think the two ideas can be reconciled. I think either the government has to have all that power or it doesn't. I don't think you could have a totalitarian government that allowed the people some ounce of freedom.
Okay. So yeah. So in that aspect, what about, for example, homosexuality? Because I guess we were discussing this earlier on one of your videos before, and
Yeah, I think if not you, it's someone else.
okay, but I was reading through the comments. No, I think maybe I put myself in the shoes, but yeah, I was thinking basically, for example, let's say homosexuality. Personally speaking, I'm not really pro or against it. I'm indifferent, I guess, to the whole situation. I don't really have. I'm not a pro agenda, and I'm not a negative agenda. But I do feel like, for example, someone in your position, who I'm guessing you are more on the against side, right?
More on the indifferent side, honestly. I personally don't really care all too much about
Okay, but
politics or
would you
homosexuality.
actively vote for the so-called, let's say, is gay marriage legal in your state, or is it not
In
legalized yet?
Florida, I think it is. I think it is legal in Florida.
Oh,
But
okay.
I certainly did vote for it.
But would you
Well, I
vote for
didn't. I
it?
don't. Well, I don't vote at all. So I mean, it wouldn't
Oh, okay. You
matter.
don't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But would you vote for it if you, I guess, if the decision was in your hands, or would you not?
Probably would not.
But see, that's what I mean. That's what I was thinking. I guess everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but is the action of not voting for, I guess, their freedom? Well, I call it freedom, but it could
It's
be.
not. It's not freedom. I mean, well, see, I think a lot of people kind of misconstrue the ability to get married for like a right. It's not a right. You're not really entitled to another person's entire being. So I've always viewed marriage as a privilege. I haven't. It's not a right, at least not to me. And if it was a right, we wouldn't have to be voting for it in the first place. It'd just be an amendment. So I mean, just basically in the politics of America, it's not a right. It is a privilege, just based on that statement alone. But that being said, personally, I think when you look at the topic, of gay marriage and marriage, you kind of have to look at the purpose of a marriage in and of itself. And just based on the purpose of a marriage originally, I just don't see any reason why a gay person would need to get married or why they would even want to. Especially not with how. Are you familiar with MGTOW, men going their own way?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing is I've seen some MGTOWs will support gay marriage and then say that if you get married to a woman, that's terrible. I'm like, well, I mean, you gotta make up your mind across the board. Because if you're telling me that getting married between two men is different than getting a man getting married to a woman, well, then clearly there's a difference between the two, and it's not the same. So the whole politics of it all flies out the window. But more than that, I just don't understand how I just don't understand what gay people really have to gain after they have civil union from getting married, other than the word. It kind of looked like they were just more arguing for the word itself, and then not all the privilege that they obtained from the civil union,
I
which
mean,
is why I just don't care.
I think it's more of they want to be accepted into society. I guess
Well,
by obtaining.
you can't. Well, even that being, you can't force people to accept you. You know,
No,
you can
but
only
I
live
think
your life. Go ahead.
yeah, that's true. But I think I guess it helps move towards the gender. For example, I guess homosexuality was only removed from the American Diagnostical Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I think in 1973. Don't quote me in that exact, but I think it
Yeah,
was.
I know it was recently removed. Yes, this is true.
Yeah, I think it's only about 45 years ago. And I mean, if you really think about that's only a few years ago, and we thought that it was a mental disorder. So, and I guess when I was growing up, when I was 10, 12, 13, you could make any kind of a satirical comment about homosexuality and you would not be ostracized. But it
Yeah,
seems as if,
think about, yeah. If you make any offbeat comment about gay people now, actually, if you just disagree with it now, well,
yeah,
you get a
it's,
firestorm on you. You know.
yeah, I mean,
So at this point, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry for
feel
cutting
like
you off.
that's all right. I feel like society we're moving towards a state of conformity, and I guess like you said it on the you said it earlier about the whole Jewish experience. It's the fact that a minority a minority basically engage gets themselves into power, and then they force everyone through their ideological concepts to agree with them, even if they disagree with them. It's almost as if they're putting a gun at you, telling you if you don't do this, you're going to be publicly shamed, publicly ostracized, and be called as if you're, I guess, compared to Hitler in a sense, in a
Absolutely. Yeah.
metaphorical sense. So, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not totalitarian in a sense, but it certainly is bottlenecking the way people can feel. It certainly makes it, you know, what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for. I'm the way I'm trying to phrase this. I can say off the top of my head, it's absolutely terrible and dreadful that you can try to force people to feel the way you feel, you know, and by calling them names and being politically correct, which is why I despise political correctness, because that's all. It just exists to just be there so people can be offended. It doesn't help do anything or change people's minds. It's just a tool to use, you know, by politics. You know, look, you said something racist or something mean. You said something people don't like, therefore you're a bad person. Well, no, absolutely not. It's not indicative of how bad you are just because you said something. You just said something mean or something people misinterpreted. And I think that's just way too much power in the hands. Again, if you just disagree with homosexuality, then automatically you're a terrible person. And while it's true, I mean, certainly there are lots of people who mistreat people. You know, I'm not going to take that away and say that
Yeah,
doesn't happen, because it does. But at the same time, you know, you forcing people to feel the way you feel is absolutely abhorrent to me. You should never, if you want people to accept you, then you got to accept other people. You know, do unto
yeah,
others kind of ideology.
yeah. I agree with you because I guess the word that flies out most of the times is either bigot or homophobe. And I mean, when I
Yeah,
first analyzed the word, I thought homophobe. I'm not really pro it, so I thought maybe that word actually sticks. But then as I did more research, I realized the word actually is tied to a hate, like an active hate towards these people. And I realized I had no sense of hate or dislike. It was more of I don't appreciate your lifestyle, but I would never go out and rally against you or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
So
And homophobe would really be the wrong word to use. Phobia implies fear, and I don't really think there's lots of people who are scared of gay people so much as they disagree with them. I don't think they should get married. But no, I don't really think there's lots of people who are afraid.
yeah,
So
but I guess previously we had the Roman Empire collapsing, and at the peak of the Roman Empire, they had good laws, fair systems. They allowed different religions to coexist, and then at the end they started becoming corrupt, and I guess they started allowing too many things to go on in terms of like homosexuality became rampant again. And I'm not blaming homosexuality for what's going to happen, but I feel like we become too accepting for anything and everything that within time our society is going to be so watered down that it's no longer going to have an identity, in the sense that I honestly do believe that, let's say, incest type relationships will be accepted in the future. Though, the argument will be this: we can now isolate the genes that cause mental retardation, or we can, I guess, we can stop this. We can sterilize them so that if they agree to it, so that they don't have children, etc. And then, slowly and slowly, I guess, I do think that we are digressing. Do you not feel that? Or
Yeah, I think when I was younger, one thing I always thought, the only thing that really bothered me about gay marriage was that if you don't make concepts concrete, then eventually you could be able to change the way people feel about anything, and you would be able to argue for anything, such as and I know a lot of people get their feelings hurt when they hear that, but it's like pedophilia, and like if you say that if you let homosexuality go by, then eventually you're gonna have to let an argument fly by for people being pedophiles. And unfortunately, I've seen it on some different areas where some people will make that argument. It's not mainstream, but I have seen it on different parts of the internet. So, which is the only thing that gets me. There's only scary thought there is the fact that if you don't make marriage a concrete term, I mean, what is concrete? I mean, what are terms that can't be bent or can't be changed based on people's opinions or based on people's feelings? Because if you could change anything just because a bunch of people feel that way, well, I mean, then what is right and what is wrong? What is concrete and what isn't? I think that's one gigantic problem that I had with it. I don't really care about two people having sex with each other and doing what they do, but the thing that gets me is changing an entire institution for a small population of people. And I think you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, on something that isn't vital. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you kind of have a point there that eventually you could argue for different kinds of things going on and different things happening. So
yeah, because I think I had you're familiar with Ben Carson, right?
I am not.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's Dr. Benjamin Carson. He's I guess he used to be he's world class neurosurgeon. He's actually been doing a bit of I guess rallying for the Republican Party, and he made a comment saying once, I think on Fox News or was it CNN, saying that he basically inadvertently compared homosexuality to I guess pedophilia or something like that. And he compared homosexuality to pedophilia.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this abhorrent uproar against him. And I guess I think it's the fact that people with herd mentality, when they're conformity and herd mentality, and I guess just flocking towards people, it's a sense that people don't actually think. I mean, I guess it is true. If you allow paraphilic, like I said, homosexuality was still in the Diagnostical Statistical Manual until about 1973, meaning what has really changed in this 40 years to remove it? Is it because we think it's no longer a mental illness, or are we beginning to accept it because we have to? So
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, because if you're if people are only conforming because they're scared of the backlash, then no one's conforming. No one's really changing anything, so you're not getting what you want. Well, actually, you're getting what you want legally speaking, but you're not getting that true acceptance, which I guess would show that your real agenda is just for power and whatnot. But if you actually want people to accept you have to give them that ability to choose and feel a certain way and to change their mind by talking to them, not by yelling and screaming and telling them that they're terrible people. Otherwise, you're not going to get what you want. You're just going to get a bunch of people who dislike you or despise you because you're being a jerk. And it may not have anything to do with people being gay. It's just the fact that some of the supporters are just fucking assholes. I mean, put it bluntly.
Yeah, I guess I think a lot of people use it as a political football.
That's true.
It's a sense that right now you couldn't verbally express your opinions against it, or even indifference is now a crime in a sense. It's a political correctness crime. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I guess I don't know. That's why I'm scared about the society in the future for our children and their children. It's the fact that we no longer have defined moral standards anymore. Again, I'm all for women's liberations, but I do think that, for example, women becoming more sexually, expressive is causing problems in marriages.
Again, it's causing them to be. Yeah, it's causing women to be miserable. A lot of women Yeah, if you talk to girls about, the guys they have sex with, and the men that they choose,
Yeah,
you find an overall theme that they don't like them. Ultimately, a lot of the men these women are even having sex with, they don't even like. And you have these, it's the feminists really who's telling these women to go out and explore their sexuality with a bunch of people that they quite literally don't even like. You know, uh,
do you think
go ahead.
do you think it's a selfish sabotage on the feminist account, or what do you think? Like,
That's
maybe they,
I never even thought about that. Go ahead.
yeah, maybe they didn't, maybe they had a ruined sexual experiences, so they, that now they don't want any woman to be happy, so they kind of just tell them to, I guess, express themselves in with serial monogamy,
I don't know.
or
That's a good question. I never even thought about that.
yeah, because I mean, like statistics clearly show that a woman with less than two sexual partners prior to marriage is only likely only 20% likely to get a divorce. Women with as you increase over six, it gets up to 65%. So
Hmm.
there's a clear distinction between uh, so-called women's sexual liberation and a divorce. I mean, the reason I'm using men and women here, not men, is because again, most divorce, about 60 something percent of divorces are
Yeah, I read here in America, it's 80% are
wow,
initiated by
that's
women.
crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. I guess,
and
yeah.
go ahead.
You can go first.
Yeah, you're right there. I think that I never even thought about it as feminists or women self sabotage each other. That's an interesting idea to be explored. But I talked to a lot of these different girls. I used to have lots of female friends growing up, and I would talk to them about why they even dated some of the guys they dated. Like if you talk about the stereotype about girls dating a bad boy, like they're dating this guy like to change them into someone else. And if you're trying to change someone, I mean, evidently you don't fucking like them. You don't like that person. And a lot of these women are just going around having sex with a bunch of people that they don't like, who treat them badly, and they're miserable. And that's one reason why I make a lot of different slut shaming videos, because a lot of these women they don't like it. You have some women who will say they like it and they're okay and they can be in relationships with people. Like that does happen with some women, but on average, you can see that these women are miserable and they get angry and hateful and spiteful to men for the decisions that they made. And I blame again, I say that's the sexual revolution. I think we told women to go do X, Y, and Z, and we never said, hey, look, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe you might like being with one guy. But if you just get a bunch of people telling you have to go out and you have to explore yourself, then I don't think a lot of people, I think it comes I think one thing, correlation doesn't equal causation, but what I think the causation for a lot of the divorces is not being satisfied with the other person. And I think that comes from, having so much sex and, doing a bunch of things with a bunch of different people that when you get one person, you may not be as experienced, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word. You're like, well, I don't like this. It's boring. Let me go find someone else. I think that's what a huge problem is. A lot of people just aren't content or they just don't know how to be happy with one thing because they've been going around all the time. Sorry about that.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right there. But even that point you made about causation, I think it's actually it's irrelevant whether it's causation or correlation, because the fact remains that it's a high percentage. That, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I understand.
yeah, it's such a high correlation value that you could almost ignore that it's not a causation. It's like smoking and lung cancer. There's a clear correlation.
Yeah.
It's not causation. Not no scientist is going to say that smoking causes cancer. No, but it can cause it. It doesn't cause it in everyone, but it can cause it, and because
Yeah.
it can cause it, it causes correlation. Though you know what I'm trying to say, right?
I got you.
But I think that the problem sprouts from I guess from biological realities. Back in the days, um, men used to be stronger. The ones who were more successful in terms of hunting um, or rearing, getting houses, etc., and property and wealth, they would get the, I guess, healthier, more beautiful women. And I think women are still ingrained in that situation where they want the asshole. They believe that the man who expresses themselves physically violently or just more asshole like is going to be more of a man than the man who basically sits down in
And takes care of them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because for example, I'll say yeah, for example, let's say in the black community in the UK, what's happened is this. I guess you'd have a young man, either black or white, or it doesn't really matter, but a young man who basically likes a girl. He talks to the girl. Let's say this guy's a geek, or I'm going to use that word geek, but you know, forget political correctness. The guy is not the coolest guy in the world, but you know, he's not. He's quite intelligent. He studies. He asks the girl out. The girl is not interested at all. The girl would rather date the guy who messes up in class. Seems to have no future aspects. She falls in love with that guy. She gets pregnant with that guy. That guy realizes that he can't actually knuckle down to take care of her and the baby. So what happens is now the girl comes back to the nice guy when she's 27 or 28, and then she tries to marry that guy. And
yeah,
and for me, what is quite astonishing, but a lot of people actually fall for that. I personally know quite a few people falling for that situation where. I mean, what do you think men allow themselves in that situation? I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with falling in love with a woman because she's had a child before or whatever. That's But it seems like there's a movement. You know, it seems like there's too many of them doing that. So why do you think men, in general, allow themselves in that situation where, you know, I guess they're being used by women.
Why do men do? I think one part of it is it's kind of something I noticed between some men. It kind of goes back to the guy that you're just talking about. He's a nerd, or I guess he's a geek. He doesn't get a lot of female attention. So no, he finally gets someone to care about him. It's like, well, I mean, all right, I can do this. You know, now she's finally coming back. Now maybe I might be able to take care of her. Maybe I might be happy. I think some men they get tired of either trying to date women, or they just settle for what comes their way because they try so much and they're just not successful. That's what I think it could be. I can't say for sure.
I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, for me, I also think it's maybe because women, like when let's say they already have a kid for another man, they want to get married about 27. I think that's the age a man just breaks out. Because usually you see, from my experiences, women under 25 usually have the advantage in terms of relationships and sexuality.
Oh yeah.
Like men 35, they're the ones who have the advantage because they've already they've gone over. They've now just passed their discovery stage in life. They're now in their exponential stage where they've finally understood who they are. They've started a company or they have a relatively good job that pays well. So now they kind of realize that they have economic freedom, which equals sexual freedom, because now more women will be coming after them. But I think maybe these women are smart in the sense that they pick the men just before they reach 35, where the age where generally men become more valued in a sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, but I guess I mean that's just the thing. I still feel like women need to stop, or third wave feminists need to stop. I guess trying to sabotage women and making them feel like they need to be like men. I feel like we need to focus more on helping women love themselves first and foremost. And I guess by having a few more role models, maybe politics is not the right place because that's more than just. It shouldn't just be a popularity contest. It should be actually about the ideas that the people present, not just about who can get more votes because they're doing this thing. But it should be more about maintaining society rather than just getting votes from mundane issues.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, I certainly do think a lot of women do need better role models. I really just think, honestly, they need their moms around with them. I think that's what they need around them. I think there should be a more concrete definition of femininity. Because I mean, I'm not a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, but I cannot tell you what it means to be feminine. It's a really hard concept to grasp nowadays because I don't think a lot of women know what it means. If you think about feminine, you think about really sexual or overly sexualized people, and I don't really think that's the way it's supposed to be. But because that's the image that we get from so many women. I think so many women really overvalue their sexuality a lot too, because I think on some level a lot of them realize that's almost all they have. I think it's a sad thing to say. I think a lot of women realize, like Kim Kardashian, like she knows that she's only good for getting naked, and I know she knows because she said it herself. She verbatim said that that's what I'm good for. And I think a lot of women will look at that and say, well, I mean, all my life I've been told I'm pretty. I mean, I guess being sexual is the only thing I got. And I agree with you there. I do think a lot more women should learn how to love themselves, and that will let them be loved by men, and now ultimately make our culture a lot better when we have more people who really love themselves and want to make their lives better.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's true. For example, in terms of the history of humanity, women have always been, I guess, they've always been a center of spiritual. Yeah, when I say spiritual, I don't necessarily mean like a religious sense, but more of a, I guess,
Emotional kind of sense.
yeah, in an emotional sense. Yeah, they've always been more spiritually engaged. Some people use intuition, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel men have always have had that role of exploring and being able to go somewhere new where you've never explored before. And women would always kind of pick up the pieces and they would kind of like put the man together in a sense. And I think it's like, again, it's a fact that women have lost sense of who they were, and they've focused too much on I guess like on oppression, which they focus too much on oppression that occurred within the last few centuries, that they forgot literally their value in society, and therefore now, instead of going back to having some kind of healing between men and women, they would rather fight men rather than actually work with them.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think there's a way to stop? I mean, to stop this from happening? Because right now, women divorce at a crazy high rate,
I
and
think, go ahead.
and that's just going to stop men from wanting to get married.
Absolutely. It already has, actually.
Oh,
It's already started having an effect on men a while ago. Uh, the MGTOWs were going on before I even realized it was happening, so of course, I mean, I'm not the bastion of the world or anything like that, but I mean, it's been happening for a
yeah.
while. Um,
But what does that mean
yeah,
for? That's the
go
thing.
ahead. What does
What
it
does
mean for
that mean?
society?
Yeah, this
Well,
whole
well,
breakup.
I can tell you exactly what it means for society, but before, I'll answer your question. How do we stop it? I think the only way we can stop it, is by, trying to instill a sense of value in women and men too. I think you have to instill a sense of value in both men and women, because there are lots of men who are dealing with low self-esteem too, that don't get a lot of attention, and a lot of men need to understand that they are worthy, and that they have value, being a human being, you know. And I think it's really instilling self-respect and self-esteem in people that will, get them out of this idea of being a feminist as an idea. I mean, as an identity. I'm sorry. And
Oh, I
go ahead.
agree. And like yeah, I guess it's sad with the whole divorce act, where divorce was allowed to be had so easily. I feel like men are less likely to divorce because they don't feel they need to. Women, I think they need
Yeah,
that constant reminder that they're great and amazing. I think they have a lower self-esteem in general than men. But I think
yeah,
men
I would agree with that. Go ahead.
but I think men have a deeper sense of low esteem. So what I mean by that is, for example, suicide rates in males are higher than anyone else, because when males do get to that point, it's a lot more intense and deep than women. I think women are generally more self-conscious and low self-esteem, but I think men are, according to the correlation evidence, for them it gets deep. It gets much deeper. So if they allow themselves in that situation, they actually die. It's not just
Yeah,
like their life stopped working. They actually literally kill themselves because they can't deal with the stress of living.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's
yeah, I was
true.
gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you what you call it in terms of slut shaming and and sexual liberation. Do you think, obviously you can't impose what people should do, but do you think that, I guess, like we were just discussing, that women should kind of close their legs and keep themselves a bit more, I'm not going to use the word holy, but less slutty in a sense, because of
Yeah,
all the
a little more chaste. Is that what you're looking for?
yeah, because of the consequences. I
Uh,
mean, this forgetting the
Absolutely.
argument. Yeah,
You said forgetting what?
I mean, well, I know some people may say, oh, morally, they should do whatever. I mean, they want, but if you just forget the moral argument,
Yeah,
and both,
like not even morally speaking. I think really, I usually argue from like a social point of view. I don't really argue morally speaking. You're a terrible person if you do X, Y, and Z. But I think in terms of society, there are definitely going to be negative consequences that occur to you, and biologically too. But to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. I do think that women should be more. I think, and I guess I'm gonna have to clarify my use of the word. I think women should be more selective of the men they decide to be with, and I don't mean in terms of status. I mean like in terms of quality, like how this man treats you, and like how this man reacts to children, or how I mean actually, evaluate this person to see, you know, if he can be a good father, if he can be a good parent to your children. And I think a lot of people have disconnected sex from reproduction anyway. So I don't think a lot of women really do think about that because they're primarily more thinking about the reptilian brains are constantly thinking about that, which is why they date these kinds of jerky assholes. But consciously, they're not thinking about that, and I think that's a huge disservice women do to themselves, honestly, because you're gonna end up having a bunch of children with people who don't care, and that's gonna mess your children up in the long run, especially when it comes to them wanting a father figure around.
yeah, you got into a nice point there. The whole father figure. Earlier, you said that it's because mothers don't talk to their daughters and teach them, I guess, how to be happy. But I was also thinking maybe there's even a bigger influence in this in the lack of fathers in the family, in the household. Like I'm about 30% of households actually have two parent uh, dichotomy, but most households do not have two parents. At least at one point in their life, most households lose a father. So isn't it more of a woman does not see a father in the house who treats the mom well. So with that regards, she has no idea of how a man should treat a woman. So I guess then
Yeah,
she goes into these asshole type relationships where she's complaining where are the good guys, but the good guys are everywhere, and she doesn't seem to understand that she just has to not look at the asshole.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
But
I say it all the time. Go ahead.
but how would you get I guess fathers more involved in situations again, in family situations? You just said that with the MGTOW movement, men are kind of staying away from marriages.
Yeah, true. Um, how would I do that? I think really it'll take time. But part of the solution definitely is again, women have to be of quality. You have to have quality women around. And not saying that there aren't great women because there are, but more often than not, a lot of men are dealing with a lot of manipulative people, or dealing with a lot of insecure women. Because even then, like insecurity has a terrible, terrible effect on how you relate to other people, especially in relationships. I think a
Yeah,
lot of men have to deal with women like that, and I think part of being a man is you have to focus on yourself, make yourself better, and not deal with these girls. Call them out and force them to grow up and be adults, and not date them or not have sex with them. But I mean, fat chance that'll be happening. But I do think part of the solution is men have to force women to grow up. Men have to not accept this stupid behavior, to put it bluntly.
yeah. I guess for me, what I've realized is with a lot of women. I've had some discussions with women, and they always bring up that thing. Oh, why are men why does society view male promiscuity differently to women's? I mean, I guess
And
for
I
now
don't
it's
think, yeah, they really don't understand that concept. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't think they understand the concept. I mean, firstly, men aren't actually that promiscuous anyway. Maybe.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the first part. I mean, women. If you think of it this way, women are the gateway to sexuality. You know, I'm in general, men are more have a more intense need for sex, and if the woman is not willing to give it, then he can't get it. So, how is men having more sex if the woman, men, we're assuming that it's not a male on male relationship, but are women not involved in that situation? So really, and also the second part of it is the emotional baggage when it comes to sexuality.
Yep.
Like I said before, women are more emotionally filtered than men. So women actually need some kind of stability, and one man. I mean, I guess even biologically it makes sense. A woman can only have one, two, or maybe three children at a time. Triplets, doublets. But it's
Hmm.
a very small amount of children from one egg, which releases every month. A man can a man can potentially have thousands of children within a week.
Yeah.
Potentially, he could impregnate. In fact, one man could probably impregnate a whole country within a few years. Maybe not having sex, but inseminations of in vitro fertilization. So
Yeah.
I think these people kind of forget the simple fact that biologically speaking, women are not designed to be stores where it's open for business. They're just not emotionally designed for that aspect, anyways. So, and also the consequences. Uh, males who are promiscuous. I'm not. And the fact remains that males aren't actually much more promiscuous than women anyway. But males
Yeah.
who are promiscuous, they can deal with it a lot better than women, because if you look at the divorce rate, the amount of males going for divorce is still relatively low. It's gone a bit higher, but it's stabilized, and it's still lower than how much females go for divorce. So it seems that it affects females more. So of course there should be you should look at it differently. I think this pseudo false reality about so-called equality is actually getting in the way of facts and truth, and it stops us from being able to engage in these conversations honestly. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sexuality is a lot more different than it affects men.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm just making sure. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say you're right. Men definitely do look at having sex and having sex with women a lot differently than women do. For a woman, the key to really getting a woman to have sex with you is you got to make her feel comfortable. You have to make her care about you on some level. A man, he just likes you because you're a woman. And yeah, you're right. Women are a lot more emotionally connected, a lot more emotionally involved, and it certainly does hurt them. When they're going off and having all this sex with a bunch of people who don't care about them. And I don't really think that a lot of feminists ever say anything about that, which again is part of the slut shaming videos, because a lot of these girls, they aren't hurt by it, and they just don't like it. Put it bluntly. And I don't think there's a lot of people, getting that message out there that maybe that's not a good idea, and that
Yeah,
we are
true. I mean,
different. Go ahead.
what do you think about, I guess, prostitution laws? I'm assuming in America it's illegal, right?
Yeah, it's illegal in America.
Okay, here it's pretty much legal here. It's only legal under certain circumstances, but I mean, what's your views on that?
Yeah, there are certain areas here in America where they have like brothels where that it's legal there. I forget the areas where it is, but personally, I don't really think a lot of women should go into that line of work.
Yeah,
Uh, um, I know a lot of them do out of desperation. I haven't seen very many who aspire to be prostitutes. So let me think for a second. Yeah, I watched like a couple of different documentaries on different prostitutes and brothels and whatnot, and just overall consensus, a lot of them they don't like it. A lot of them, even when it comes to stripping too, I see a lot of different women who really just don't like that line of work, and I can understand why it's illegal, especially with the different types of diseases and really hard to regulate it. To be completely honest, that's a really hard business to regulate and
Yeah.
have control over. So I understand why it's illegal, but personally, I don't really think you should be punished as harshly as it is. It's kind of the same thing like marijuana, but I understand why the laws are the way it is.
You guys actually punish people for that? Oh wow.
Yeah, uh,
Oh wow.
with
I
jail
think that's
time.
great. I mean, personally, again, I'm not someone who'd advocate women to or men to go into that fashion of business. But then again, I don't think the state should punish people
Yeah,
for I guess
that
like a bit. Yeah, it's a victimless. I mean, when I say victimless, I mean the exploitation goes both ways. The man is exploiting a woman's sexuality, and the woman is exploiting a man's wealth. So
yeah,
it's a two-way exploitation, so to speak. So I really, really don't think the government should be punishing people for it. I never knew they punished them in America. I thought it was just illegal, but
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that
It's illegal. You face jail time, and that's the thing. I don't really think you should be punished harshly for it. But again, I also don't think you should do it either.
true. But I mean, again, marijuana. See that's what's going to get me to my next point. The marijuana laws in America is insane. Someone can get like up to 12 years for selling marijuana. That's a lot of time, and I think 5 years for
Yeah,
possession.
yeah.
I mean, why? I mean, again, marijuana is technically less dangerous than many of the drugs that we take legally. Uh,
Well, it's less immediately dangerous, but over time, it can certainly
yeah,
destroy
it causes
large functions of the
paranoia,
brain.
schizophrenia, and other mental disorders. But again, I don't know. I still feel, and for example, smoking cigarettes, that is a clear killer. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's like,
one difference between marijuana and tobacco is tobacco is a lot easier to control than marijuana, and by a long shot. Yeah, because it's really hard to grow tobacco because it absolutely destroys the soil that you use to grow it in. In marijuana, you can potentially just grow a whole bunch of that continuously, as long as you have seeds. So it's really hard for our government to control anything, and our U.S. government loves to have power. So I think that's a huge portion of it. They just can't control it as much as they want to. I think another thing is I don't know. I don't even know if a lot of people would let them outlaw tobacco because I mean, I don't know how versed you are in American history, but there's a time where we had a prohibition where
oh yeah, then
we outlawed alcohol and people lost their minds. They were out in the streets. A lot of people got incarcerated. A lot of people had riots and whatnot because they couldn't drink alcohol. So I just don't think it would work well at this point to try to legalize tobacco. So
and at the same
I think that's part of what it is. Go ahead.
at the same time, you wouldn't want to legalize marijuana either.
Yeah, I think partly because of the different effects that it can have through long-term usage. Like in short term, it's not really all that bad, but over time, it will fuck your brain up. Yeah, to put it bluntly, it will.
Haha, let's put it bluntly. That's a good one. you know. Okay, well, yeah, I guess yeah, it's true. Marijuana causes a lot of studies show that it can cause a lot of psychological damages to the brain tissue for prolonged usage. But then again, I mean, this is another thing which I think the American government, even though you guys always talk about freedom and having being free and expressing the American dream, but I also think that the government is overreaching. Like, I, I still don't think you should be put in prison for possession. Selling and distribution. I agree. That is a crime, and it's a serious crime. But how is putting a young man or woman, usually men, in jail for possessing marijuana going to help them or society? Because I
Yeah,
guess is you're kind of destroying a young person's future. They can't, especially in America. Again, it's hard for criminals to get a job. They can't. I think can you vote once you come out of prison? I'm not sure. I think,
I don't
but
think you can. No, I don't think you can vote after you've been sent to prison.
in country. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I honestly don't see the point of literally putting someone for possession. I think it's more of a maybe should be given a couple warnings. I don't think it should be like a first time offense. You're put to prison. At least give you a couple warnings before. And I think that that would be that would make a more so-called egalitarian system. And it's also the fact that I guess the policing systems focus on poorer minority areas. Because if you're to really compare the total drug abuse, I would say it's actually technically drug is more abused in richer middle class areas than it is in any ghetto. But I would what I don't understand is why the American government focuses more on ghetto drug capturing than the middle class areas. What do you think?
I don't know. There's nothing really to be said there without getting into conspiracy theorist territory. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I would say, I guess maybe because the people who fund the government are from certain backgrounds and certain educational house property management areas. So of course, if you're the one funding the government, which then funds the police system, of course, it would make from a logical. This is a logical view, not a statistical or like an evidential premise, but from a logical premise. I understand that many governments, especially the American government, is funded by external lobbyists. Is that true?
I guess. Maybe you tell me.
In terms of elections and etc. So, I guess if somebody is it's the same person who's going to be sponsoring your campaign, you're not exactly going to be now employing police to police your communities in things that you don't believe are necessarily wrong. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's answering the question without going into a conspiracy type interjunction.
Yeah. In order to really talk about, you'd have to go into conspiracy theorist territory there.
I mean, but again, I think there's a lot of crazy conspiracy theorists out there. I mean, feminists, radical feminists are one of them, with that whole patriarchy, systematic oppression.
Well, that's not even so much as a conspiracy theory; it's just complete nonsense. Like I mean, with the conspiracy theory, but seriously, like with the conspiracy theory, there's at least some grounds as to why some people might think that way. There's some evidence, there's something weird that's going on that can't be explained, and that's where the theory comes from. But with patriarchy, we just by any definition of the word, we just don't live in one here in America. We just don't. It doesn't matter if you mean family unit. It doesn't matter if you call it patriarchy by whatever definition the feminists make. We just don't live there. It's complete and utter nonsense. There's no way to reconcile that we live in a patriarchy, according to the feminists themselves. So, I'm sorry I went on that tirade, but the patriarchy theory is nonsense. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. But okay. So yeah. Radical feminism aside, for example, I guess what for me what's almost annoying me or annoyed me is the fact that most people really don't think for themselves, and I think that's a problem. I don't know why they don't think for themselves. Either they want to somehow belong to a society, or they want to feel part of the community, but they really don't think for themselves. Because, for example, I mean, a lot of so-called conspiracy theories aren't even that. I'm using the word conspiracy to mean, conspiracy-y, if you get what I mean. I'm not using it in terms of the actual meaning conspiracy, but as in, what I mean, what we expect a conspiracy theory to be, like a crazy.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so I guess my problem with people, just the average human being who can understand and read English, is that they're disingenuous to themselves. I mean, a lot of so-called conspiracy theories actually make a lot of sense. And excluding some of the crazier ones, which there's no evidence for. What I don't understand is why do people not even give it a second thought? Why do they have this blind belief in government? And I don't understand.
That's a good question. I cannot answer that one.
I honestly understand that sentiment that people have, where the government has been involved. The Tuskegee thing, the government, like, let's say, for example, the whole eugenics movement in America, where they were trying to remove uh, the amount of disabled people who can have children by sterilizing them illegally, by lying to them, or coercing them into basically signing a document that says they give consent to be sterilized, but they didn't quite understand what was going on. Also, when in Tuskegee, where they basically went to a poor neighborhood, where, I mean, this is what I'm saying now is not, it's not conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact.
Yeah.
I think later on I'll send you some links over. But the government was basically involved in syphilis experiments, giving poor people syphilis and lying to them that they were treating them for syphilis. I mean, this happened in Tuskegee, and I mean, so many different things that the government has been clearly shown to do evil. Yet people still feel like the government is the ultimate god. Where do you think this god complex on government worship came from?
Dude, I don't know. I just I don't know. I see what you're saying there, and I certainly do see a lot of people do have this unreal faith in the Constitution and government, but I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer where it comes from or why people feel that way.
Yeah, because I, I guess it never. I guess for us in the UK, it's a bit different. We don't we don't really have a constitution. Actually, no, we don't have any constitutions written anyways. We don't have any written constitutions. We have just a common law system, and I guess we don't really believe in all these justice and freedom and all that stuff. I guess we kind of see things more. Okay, this person isn't as bad as this person, so we're going to vote for him. We don't really necessarily vote for people because we truly believe they're going to change anything, in a sense. Because I feel like, for example, when Obama was elected, a lot of people thought this is going to be a different president. We're going to have the war on so-called Iraq taken out. Afghanistan stopped, but it continued for quite a few years while you're still in power. Why do you think people still fall for the same? As in one moment, this person has proved themselves not to be reliable, but they're still voting for them, and they're still somehow believing their side of the story instead of thinking like a human being and critically analyzing both situations to actually find out the truth. Why is it that they automatically believe in the government side when the evidence shows that people lie in general?
Just out of speculation, say it might be blind faith. I think out of speculation, I think people they want to believe. Now, people believe what they want to believe. I think the best way to put it. I think they want the world to be better, and they think that they may not have any other power other than by voting for this absolute nonsense. Maybe that's what it is, but I really don't know. Maybe it's the lack of a thought process. That could be what it is. They're just not thinking at all. Because I'm with you. I can look at the government and see the evil that it does, and I just can't believe half the stuff that comes out of any politician's mouth. So maybe it's just lack of education. Maybe people they just don't think complexly enough to understand that the government's lying here and there, and that they have been lying for over a number of years.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, because if on one example you have the extreme end of people who think everything is a conspiracy theory, and then you have the other extreme end, which unfortunately most people lie in, where everything the government says is true, even when they're clearly lying, and there's evidence that they just lied previously on the same account. It's only a very small, moderate population where basically they analyze both situations. They're like, okay, that sounds plausible. That sounds even more plausible. And then they actually come to a logical conclusion based on analysis of the situation. So yeah, I think you might be right there. I mean, it's possibly due to like a blind faith. People, since religion is on the decline, people are looking for something to believe in again, I guess.
Maybe that's precisely what it is. Because I do know a lot of people in the UK are not religious.
Yeah, here it's more of a ceremonial thing rather than an actual like faith-based thing. It's more ceremonial. Like the Church of England is more of a figurehead type of
Mm-hmm.
situation than a like a true Bible Belt American belief system.
Got you.
But personally,
Interesting.
religion. I think religion has its place, and I think it's good to believe in something.
I
Uh,
do too. Yeah.
what I disagree with is extremists. We call them extremists, but really they're actually probably the true version of religious followers.
It depends on the religion, really. Um,
Yeah, I guess it depends on the religion. For example, Islam, it does have some extremists who do it. I mean, but then again, I mean, what do you think, for example, like religion Islam? I mean, the Prophet Muhammad, he had a 9-year-old wife, and according to that religion, he's supposed to be the quintessential good person. He's supposed to be the archetype of goodness in terms of humanity. So, but if you follow his examples, he killed thousands of people, married a 9-year-old, sorry, married a 6-year-old, consummated at 9 years old. And is that really so really, can you really call these extremists, terrorists, extremists when really that is actually technically moderate Islam in the context of what is written in the book? Not practice, not by the amount of people who practice that type of Islam, but by the reality of the context of the book.
yeah. Logically speaking, based on what you said, you're right. No, they would not. They'd be doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Which is personally why there's no way I could ever be Islamic. And among other reasons, there's other reasons why I couldn't be Islamic, other than are you familiar with how Islam even became a religion?
Um, uh, well, I might be, but I'll let you say it because I'm not sure which part I would know. So,
Yeah, I mean, really simply put, it was the Archangel Gabriel,
oh
according
yeah,
to scripture. Yeah, it was the Archangel Gabriel who came down to Muhammad and told him all the different prophets and whatnot. And I don't trust that at all. I don't think that was Gabriel. I
see,
mean, personally.
for me, I mean, I guess for me personally, it's the fact that the difference between Islam and Christianity is the fact that in Christianity, it's acknowledged that this book was written by men who are influenced by God, but in terms of Islam, it's this was the direct word of God, meaning it can't be wrong. So therefore, if it does say kill, rape, or marry 9-year-olds, that is
Yeah,
actually command in a sense. Where in
yeah,
Christianity, it's more like, okay, this is what a person who's influenced, but because somebody is influenced, regardless of how good the influence is, you can never truly write what that person intended for you to write. So you can kind of there's a leeway for you to interpret it differently. There's context of time, relevancy. So, for example, if let's say the Bible was to say something like, uh, kill your enemies," it's in context in the time on the period of what was happening to the Jewish people, etc. But
hmm
if Islam was to say something like, "Go," I guess heathens don't deserve to live if they cross you. But if you take it in the context that this is the word of God, it's completely against Western society's values. Would you say so?
yeah. I would. Yeah.
But then another thing is, why are women in these oppressive situations, like let's say Islam, not fighting for their freedom? As I mean, this is where I never really truly understand this. I guess maybe it's because they value their faith more than their reality. But why would you allow yourself, especially the ones who grow up in Western countries, not the one? I don't know. Actually, no, both ways, both ways. Why would you allow yourself to be subjugated to an oppressive situation? I mean, for example, like you earlier mentioned the whole radical feminism, patriarchy distinction. This is where basically you could say a so-called patriarchy exists, where women are literally oppressed in Saudi Arabia. They can't drive, they can't leave the house without a man. They have to cover themselves. There's an actual system that basically says If you're a woman, you're technically not valued as much as a man. In Saudi Arabia, a woman has to two women's witness. Sorry, uh, um, two women is the same as one man's witness. You know, so why are those women in those situations not fighting for their freedom? But women here who you believe don't have any real situation to fight for freedom are the ones going crazy. I mean, is this a problem of perception? Have we become so? I guess I'm going more into an esoteric philosophical approach, but have we reached a place where there's nothing else to do? We've basically reached the peak of humanity until the next, I don't know, 2,000 years, that we have nothing to do. Like literally, everybody, the people keep saying that poverty is increasing in Western countries, but really, anyone and everyone can eat. Everyone and anyone can sleep somewhere, at least in a covered shelter. Bed, maybe not, but covered shelter. Have we reached a position where we're basically become bored and there's nothing to do? There's no problem, so we create problems out of nothingness. But the people who do live in a problematic situation, actually don't know how to go about it.
Yeah, I think there's two answers to that question. Well, the first thing is there are some women in these Islamic countries that do certainly try to fight against it and try to get out of these different terrible situations. So there are some people who do try. But I think one answer would be Stockholm syndrome. You're familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I think it's possible that it could just be Stockholm syndrome. A lot of them are just born that way, and they just don't understand that they, might be able to live life differently. And then, I think the other answer, some women. Actually, hold on. Let me think. I was about to say something. Shit, I lost it. Give me some. It wasn't just Stockholm syndrome. It was something else. Yeah, I lost it. Sorry. What was the last thing that you said?
Yeah, yeah. I was saying. So why do basically what, like, let's say Western women create problems out of nothing, while Middle Eastern actually oppressed women don't even feel the need to fight for their situation? Is it the fact that they they have so much faith in their religion, or they feel that the goodness that they, for example, see, even the whole women being oppressed thing, it's, I think it's more something you have to take in perspective, because I'm sure they don't in many, I'm sure most men don't hate women. I really don't
Of
think
course
most men
not. Yeah, of course
hate.
not.
And even the whole, women not being allowed to drive. Sure, in this society and the way we've grown up, we think that's ridiculous. But in those situations, is it really that ridiculous though? Because they're not doing it because they hate them. I think they're just kind of maintaining a society. For
Yeah,
example,
yeah, I got it. Yeah, I just remembered. Uh, the thing
that's
is,
it.
you're right. There is a different culture, and if you think about historically speaking, how Islam was constantly always fighting all the time, right?
Yeah,
And because of that, there's no culture that would ever think it was a good idea to let women go out and fight. So when they say the women can't lead or be escorted by men, it's because constantly they have to fight. And in a situation like happening in the Middle East right now, where even America is in there right now fighting and trying to kill them all. Well, I think it'd be reasonable that they would say, as a woman, yeah, you can't fight these people, and we need you to repopulate because our men are constantly dying. That they would say, look, you can't go anywhere without a man. And of course, it's not right, but that's the culture. That's historically speaking. They have constantly been fighting to spread Islam all of the time. And well, any culture knows you need women to repopulate the area. And I think that's part of what it was. I could be wrong there, but that's what I think it is.
that sounds like that sounds definitely plausible. It sounds like a reasonable analysis. Yeah, I guess again, I think that's what leads me to my previous point. I think in the Western society, we literally have no major problems, that we actually become bored, and
Yeah,
we actually create problems that don't exist. Like
I agree with you on that one.
yeah, I think, for example, the whole egalitarian equality approach. I think everybody seems to believe there's this notion that just because there's equal opportunity, there's going to be equal outcome.
Yeah, true. Especially the
And
feminists.
Yeah, I guess.
If they actually believe that, I don't think I don't think Lacey Green believes half the stuff that comes out of her mouth. Personally, I don't.
That's my point though. I think, for example, I honestly think the whole feminist movement could actually work if they didn't have idiots who completely. That's the thing. I guess they have complete retards. I feel sorry for retarded people for comparing them to this online feminists, but it's incredible. Like, Lacey Green is stupid. I mean, she's talking about women being objectified, then she's wearing makeup, she's half cleavage in her video.
Yeah.
you know.
That's
and
what
then
I'm
you
saying.
have
Go ahead.
Emma Watson. She's even worse. He for she. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? Why should what he so a man is designed for a woman? I mean, if let's say a male rights activist group was called she for him, people will be like, this is a misogynistic concept
Yeah.
of how women. But if it's a he for she, it's all right.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the idea that women want men to be traditional, but they want to be able to do whatever they want to do. You know,
Is that the thing? Why I don't understand this concept. Like, that's why I always again I thank God for my girlfriend. She's she's literally everything. Smart, intelligent, a university student. She's pursuing her own career, but at the same time, she has standards and values, and she's not influenced by these nonsense ideas about men hating her or something like that. She's logical. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but it's quite hard to find logical women out there these days who are not corrupt.
No, that's not crazy. That's reality.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
who are not corrupted by stupidity. Emma Watson, for example, have you seen the he for she ad campaign? Or
yeah, I made a couple videos about it actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for example, see, my problem with her is she's worth how many million? Is it 18 million? I don't even know, but she's worth a lot of
more money than most people will see in their lives. It's just let's put it that way.
She's amongst the 1% richest people in UK, and yeah, feminism. Sorry, not feminism, but she was never oppressed into that situation. She was never oppressed. She has more power than any man has. I mean,
Absolutely.
Any average. Yeah.
And I mean, just look at what she did with the He for She campaign. I mean, and I think, and that's what I'm saying. I know Emma Watson knew what she was doing when she made the whole campaign. Because if she really thought that a bunch of guys hated women and that they would never sign it, she wouldn't have gone about all this different media coverage with the He for She campaign. She knew she was going to get some men, because men love women. I mean, we put it bluntly, a lot of men want to be with women. We're just going to go brass tacks. A lot of men would do a lot of things for women. So
yeah. This is a situation where people always again bring it up to race. For example, they always bring up the whole Jew thing, where a minority of people were oppressed by I guess Hitler and even Stalin and some other dictators, and or they also bring up the whole black thing as well. But then I'm thinking, okay, there's a huge difference between the two dichotomies in terms of male-female relationships. By simple virtue of reality, men cannot oppress people who they need.
Yeah.
Because white people don't necessarily need black people. I mean, sure, they might need them for certain things, but they don't actually need them. They can live without them, and black people can live without white people, technically. And Jewish people can live without Germans, and Germans can live without Jewish people. It's so of course it's possible for I guess for the society which has been corrupted to be racialized against them. But for women, it's actually impossible by the simple fact that she's going to be the mother of your children. You can't hate. I mean, by and large, people can't be hating their mothers. People can't be hating people who they need. Do you understand what I mean? As in, and also, simple fact that women are 50% of the population. It's and for me, whenever people make that distinction between, they try to bring marginalized people and compare them to females, I'm thinking the argument can't even stand, because by simple nature of reality. Women cannot be oppressed in the same way that other minorities can be oppressed by any
Yeah, well, I
society.
mean, women technically aren't even a minority by definition. So,
I mean,
yeah.
technically, they're 51% of the world population, which technically makes the majority. You know?
Yeah.
Also, there are more voters are female as well,
Yeah.
which again, see, I've always had a lot of girl friends in terms of female friends, and they've always said I can't actually be best friends with females because of the forgive my French, bitchiness and and that's the kind of comment I kept getting from all my female friends. And it's also the fact that there's this joke. A man can introduce a really beautiful or nice, intelligent woman to his friend, and his friend's like, damn, okay, you got lucky, man. I gotta get me a girl like that. Now, a girl introduces her man to her best friend. Now, her best friend says, I need to get me that man. So,
Yeah.
you can, obviously it's just a joke, but you can obviously see that where there's some kind of truth within that joke. That
Yeah. That's the irony. Yeah, true.
it's such an irony. But yeah, going back to Emma Watson, she further made another video on Facebook about what I don't understand is this. Again, I'm not against feminism in terms of what it actually in the legal definition. I'm not talking about the reality of what it's become, but the whole them searching for equality. That's okay. I'm not against that. I'm against what the reality presents itself as.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's say Emma Watson says that she is a feminist, and she says that feminism is also inclusive to men. And I'm thinking, what kind of bull is this? I think for me, the most annoying thing is when they actually say something like, feminism is about equality. Go look in a dictionary and educate yourself. And I'm like, I've educated myself. It's the dictionary. For example, personally, I would be fighting for it to be like what it says in the dictionary should be. I'm all for equality of both sexes, but feminism is one of those things which I don't know. Again, third wave feminism has become. I'm sure it's soon going to be fourth wave feminism, but it's become a retarded movement with no aim. There's no goal to it. The civil rights movement in the 1960s had a simple aim: give minority and colored people the rights to vote without police because I think the police were intervening in some cases, not allowing people to vote.
Yeah, the voting booths were forcing them to take tests, really difficult tests. They were ripping up some of their tickets sometimes. Yeah, there are a lot of different problems with voting booths, but go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, they made it impossible for the majority of minority citizens to vote. So obviously, the Civil Rights Act, the Civil Rights Movement, which led to the Civil Rights Act, was actually a justified situation. It was a simple, clear, and concise movement. It was about equality within voting, which is very it's very astute. I guess it's a good movement. But then again, for me, with this whole modern feminism, is the fact that I think California, again, I think America just has. I don't know why there's more crazy stuff happening there. Is it because there's more people there, like 4 times as much people there as it is in the UK, or what? Because California made that new law. Yes means yes law. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am. Absolutely asinine.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely asinine. And actually, I'm thinking about making a YouTube video about consent in the near future. Actually, not even think I'm going to make it. I just need some time.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to make a video on the concept of consent because it's very nuanced topic.
Okay, here. I guess people are gonna watch this. It might feel, I guess they might start hating on me after this moment. But in terms of rape and consent, this is my personal opinion, which is based on logic, not necessarily emotional contribution. It's more of a logical basis. And for me, this is how it goes. In terms of okay, before I go into it, I was going to ask you about the California law. Yeah, the yes means yes. I mean, when I first heard about that, I was thinking this is the most retarded thing. I didn't quite believe it. It was actually, it actually happened. And I mean, personally, I'm not someone who just has sex with anyone. I'm waiting for a future kind of relationship before I engage in those relations. But why would you make it a law? Just yes means yes. I mean, is it not the responsibility of the person to say no?
Well,
Or
I
what do you
mean,
think?
yeah, you think that, but a lot of women don't want to have responsibility. If we're gonna again be blunt, a lot of women, they don't want to you know take responsibility for their lives. I remember I don't think you've seen it. I made a video response to this woman named Anna Kana, where she literally says, "I am so tired of I don't want to be responsible
Oh no,
for
no, I think I watched
getting
that video.
attacked."
I think I did see it.
Oh, well. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And for me, it had always been implied throughout the video responses I've done, but it wasn't until Anna verbatim said, "I am sick of being responsible," did I really say that I really have concrete proof that look, this is how some of these feminists think, that they legitimately do not want responsibility, and that's what it
I mean,
is. It's these women. Go ahead.
I think that's why I thought you were picking on on stupid people, but I realized actually.
Wait, well, the thing is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but originally, it's not even that these people are some of them are, yeah. Hold on, give me a second. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm hit.
Yeah, it's not even that these people are stupid, so much as a lot of them are very hypocritical. I think it's really what I like to point out is that they don't, they don't even follow their own code. So that's really one thing I want to point out. It's not really so much that a lot of them just lack an ability to process information. They're just gigantic hypocrites. Lacey Green, I don't even think Lacey believes. Again, I don't think she believes half the stuff that comes out of her mouth. I really don't. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think again, this is the whole situation of the naked leading the blind. The blind is not aware that the person who's leading them is naked, and the fact that the person's naked shows that they're crazy, because in normal society, a naked person shouldn't be walking around. So what I mean by that is, Lacey Greens and Anna are leading people, young people just below our generation, that 16, 17, 15-year-olds who don't actually research about feminism or equality or anything, and they kind of just take what they say to be true.
Yeah.
And I think that's leading us into these situations. Why is the government in California, the state in California, removing personal responsibility from women? I mean, again, this is sexist. I mean, personally, I think this is sexist. I do not want my daughter to be treated as if she can't make her own decisions, as if she can't be responsible for herself. I don't want that kind of world for my children. It's a sexist ideology where that the government has to make decisions for the girl, and that she had do you understand what I mean? As in, if you're
I understand.
if you're engaged in a sexual situation, you should have processed that. Okay, in fact, if a guy invites you to their house and you say yes, a guy then invites you to his room, specifically the room, you say yes, he starts to kiss you and you reciprocate, and you do not stop him at any moment, that is no way rape. I mean, could you have felt raped? Yeah, you could feel raped. You could feel anything you want, but that doesn't make it what happened, what you think it happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nuance of the problem, is that technically speaking, and this is the scariest thing about it, which is why I'm making the video. Technically
Yeah.
speaking, based on that law, you can rape somebody that wants to have sex with you. If they never say anything, if they never, you two people can rape each other based on that law. If you have to say yes the whole way through, both people have committed rape, and you can sue. They can sue each other if they wanted to. You know, even if the woman wanted to have sex, you've still
Yeah.
technically committed rape, and that's the problem there. Go ahead.
Again, I mean, that's what's making me laugh. We really are reaching the situation where we have nothing to do so we just create problems out
Yeah.
of nowhere. What? As in, yes means yes. What? I mean, does a husband go ask his wife, "Can we fuck today?" All the time? I mean, I'm sure sometimes he might, but you know, and now. And now, since I guess rape is illegal in marriages, if a woman is unhappy, she's like, "Yep, I was raped yesterday. He didn't ask me if I wanted. He didn't ask me if I wanted to have sex." And I'm thinking, okay, this is just going too far. It's going in. It's actually going insane. And the whole situation for me, the whole situation's in. Let's say, two people go to a club. They both get somehow drunk, and then they have sex. And then in the morning, the guy doesn't call the woman back, and she feels violated, or she talks to some friends and they tell her, "Yeah, oh, you just been abused." And I'm thinking, where does the logic? Where I mean, I empathize with women, and that's why I guess I advocate for women's rights in terms of women loving themselves and getting some role models. Because I feel like Lacey
and I'm with
all
you.
these role models.
I'm with too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like they have terrible stupid role models actually, who get them into, like, again, Lacey Green, what's Anita Sarkeesian, and all these female role models. They do. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing a degree that you enjoy. I think everybody should go do what they love to do. But you can't then say, you're going to study women's and gender studies, and then they're complaining that women are not doing engineering. You know. And again, that's what leads me to my next point, where we should get real role models who get women to do, I guess, to do everything. They should tell women, you can be a housewife and still be a proud housewife. You being a housewife is not worse than you being an engineer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to the whole previous point on, let's say that situation, two people go to a party, male, female, they both drink, they engage in sexual relationships. In the morning, the woman wakes up, no text, the guy's gone. She says, she says, "Oh, I was raped," and I'm thinking, where does the logic come from that she would? I don't even understand. For me personally, maybe I was living under a bubble until just recently, but I never knew that was possible until there was a British footballer. His name was Ched Evans. Maybe you can go into that case at some time, but obviously I don't understand the whole story, because I think usually the jury get the full story. We don't get quite the full story, but according to the story, Ched Evans, a young footballer, goes into a hotel that is booked by his friend. His friend has sex with the girl, then he has sex with the girl, and I think the girl was slightly intoxicated. And I was thinking, okay, if he purposely got the girl drunk and he did not drink himself, so in order for him to engage in sexual acts, then I guess that could be somehow constituted as rape, maybe, or not even rape, a form of rape. Let's say first-degree rape. We really do need to start distinguishing between this, because I think it's crazy that you can't compare violent rape with someone actually threatening to kill you the same way as someone waking up the next morning and feeling dirty.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's disingenuous to the people who've actually been abused and assaulted. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that whole drinking situation? Because if you drunk, like, again, if he made you drink, or he kind of tricked you into drinking, I guess there's I don't think it's rape, but it's possible that is a form of abuse, right?
Yeah, and in cases like those where someone's drink gets spiked, I would say absolutely that's rape. I would say it's not. I think I agree with you on the distinguishing that maybe like first degree rape, second degree. I can co-sign on that. But I say definitely if someone spiked your drink or forced you to drink or did something like that, I would say yeah. If you, on the other hand, if you consciously were drinking, you purposely put the alcohol down and you made the decision during the time, then no, that's not rape. No, absolutely not.
I honestly don't. Personally, this is what makes me laugh, or just maybe even laugh and cry at the same time. Where do these people get this idea that that's rape? I'm thinking, you've drunk some alcohol, you purposely got yourself drunk. If you were driving and you hit a child or you hit someone, you would be prosecuted as a criminal offender driving under the influence. But if you get drunk, you engage in in behaviors that you regret the next morning, you are abused. I don't seem to understand where that logic comes from.
I don't either. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
when I hear those arguments, I'm thinking, this is why people don't vote for women for parliamentary positions, because if this is the kind of logic that they have, we're going to end up in wars. We're going to end up, I mean, not even more than we have now, over stupid things like, what's his name? That leader of North Korea. What's this guy's name? Kim Jong. Kim Jong or something. No. Yeah, that's it. Imagine if Sarah Palin was in power and she says, he looked at me weird, we're going to go hit him with a nuke. Yeah. Or he raped me with his eyes. I think I saw a documentary where some Indian girl was like, I get raped every day.
Every day.
I'm like, what honestly, I don't know. I think these women are terrible for the actual victims of sexual violence by making it into a satire. And it's not even a satire like black comedy where you're trying to get people to accept, to be more, to kind of relieve themselves of that pain. But it's more of like you're just doing it. It's just wrong.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of these feminists see it, man. I don't think.
But I mean, so why do you think that people actually even have the ability to process a woman choosing to drink, choosing to walk with a man to a room, and then him not forcing himself on her, but because she's unable to so-called consent, he has sex with her, then she regresses in the morning. Why do they get the logic that that's rape? That's what I don't understand.
I think it's all about her feelings. I think too many feminists are stuck on your feelings are valid. Just because you feel a certain way that should be accepted or that's perfectly okay. And I'm in the camp that I don't give a damn about your feelings. Your feelings are not logical arguments. Your feelings are not reasons. Doesn't matter if you feel a certain way. What matters is what actually happened. And so I think that's what it is. It's they like to argue feelings. They like to argue. She felt like something bad happened, so evidently it did. When that's just not true. It's just not the case.
Yeah, you're familiar with the UVA case, right? Again, some people like I stand with Jackie, even after she's been proven not to have been saying the truth. Why? How can someone say that? I don't understand.
I don't know.
How can they say that and actually sleep at night knowing that they're still saying? I don't understand.
Again, it's their feelings, man. They're really, really stuck on their feelings.
I think I don't know, because at first I started hearing this. I find this a rape epidemic, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is what really, 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 really pisses me off. It pisses me off so much. 1 in 4 women get raped in their lifetime, and I'm thinking, what kind?
Oh yeah, that's completely fallacious, by the way. It's fallacious statistic.
Where do they even get? I mean, logic would assume that if you went to a random room and let's say 30 people in that room and they're all women, it's even rare to even see one person who had been raped in that room. So how can it be that 1 in 4? As in, that's the thing. Don't people just think this is some suspicious statistics?
Well, no, bro. If you slam scientists say or research shows in front of any statement, people believe it, man.
Don't they seem to realize that?
Studies show that if you drink Red Bull, you'll get dragon wings. And people, that's so if you say it's a statistic, 2 out of 3 people, can eat metal and then transform into Megatron. And so I mean, just come up with random stuff. If it sounds like a statistic, people will take it.
Yeah, because that's why I don't. It makes no sense. I don't think these people even understand the process of statistics. First, you answer questions which are already leading. These questions aren't like direct yes, no. Have you been sexually violated. No, they actually ask this woman some complicated questions, then they come up with their own answer. For example, a woman would be asked, have you ever felt dirty after sex? Have you ever felt like you want treated equally in sexual situations? If you answer yes to any of those situations, you've been raped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It makes no sense. And also, they always conflate sexual assault with rape. So sexual assault can amount to groping. I mean, it's not good. I don't really promote groping or any type of behavior like that. But to be honest, I've been groped many times by females. I mean, that's just what's happened to me. But I don't go crying about it like, oh, I've been raped. You know, it's
same here.
I mean, personally, I don't really care. But even if I did care, it's definitely not rape. It most definitely is not rape. So I don't know. Again, putting everything in context, people have either lost or they never had the ability to think for themselves, and they just conform to any random statistics. So I mean, as a scientist, for example, as a chemist, I understand how, you know, the whole scientific process. You know, you come up with an idea, you test it, but even in the testing, you already have some preconceived notions which is going to influence your results. Like in quantum physics, there's this idea. It's quite interesting actually. When physicists are studying electrons in a quantum mechanical state, the electrons actually change their behavior because we are studying them. That's an interesting idea there. Like, just because we are studying them, they're actually acting differently than they would have acted if we were not studying them. That's interesting. But anyway, that 1 in 4 statistics, I think they've changed it now. I think they've gone to 1 in 5 now. I mean, it makes no difference.
It fluctuates.
And why is it that no matter how many times, for example, the wage gap? Again, I believe women have issues, and I think that the main issues in women is, I guess, role models and self-love and being worthy, and I guess they've opened up their legs so much that nobody wants them anymore, that they, you know, they begin to basically, oh yeah, I think, yeah, that's it. Men don't want women who are overused. You know, it's like a car. You want a brand new car. You know, you don't want a car that's going to end up having a 5-year mileage, and then she divorces you after 5 years. Lol.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that leads me to that fact. Where do women get these ideas, 1 in 5, 1 in 4, especially after they've been disproven and told that it's actually about it's less than 1% of people actually get raped?
Yeah, it's all about feminism. It's all about spreading propaganda. It's all about making women terrified for no reason, so they can have a reason to exist, because that's their identity. At least that's what I think it is.
Yeah, because I think my girlfriend at one point, I think she told me she was a feminist. I think she did it to annoy me and to get some kind of response out of me. But I found out later that she was just joking. But, you know, I was just thinking, you know, I was surprised because I thought this is a smart, intelligent person. How is she being coerced into such a movement? But leading to this question though, this is the one which pisses me off the most, even more than the rape statistics. It's the fact that, you know, after a woman has been so-called abused, no, let's not say that. After a woman has claimed that she was sexually abused, they ask her, what were you wearing? Where were you going? And then somehow feminists think these are nonsensical questions. I'm thinking, yeah, with any crime, they ask you what you were wearing, because you could have been wearing clothes.
Yeah, I know.
That provokes someone. If you're wearing, I hate black people or I hate Jews, you could be a criminal of a hate crime. You could be a criminal of a reverse hate crime because you provoked someone to hit you. If you are now, then of course, if you were wearing clothes that were very, very revealing, a so-called rapist might target you better than someone who's wearing clothes that are not as revealing, because they think you might A, be a prostitute, B, may have low self-esteem, so you're not going to report the crime. There's actually a logical.
The thing about it is, as evil as they might be, I don't imagine that they're stupid people. You know, like, I would imagine that a rapist is going to go after a woman in some super tight skinny jeans. That'd be really difficult to actually successfully rape her. So they're going to go after a woman wearing a skirt. It's not saying that it's your fault, but I mean, if you logically delineate what has a higher chance of success, I mean, it makes sense that a rapist might think, okay, it's better to go after this girl as opposed to that one.
Yeah, again, it's not blaming women for what they wear, but there is I guess yeah, there's a correlation. It may not be a causation, but it's there's definitely a correlation. If you leave your door open, you're going to be more likely to be robbed. Obviously, it doesn't mean it's not a causative factor where if you leave your door open, you will get robbed, but you are a lot
Yeah.
more likely to be robbed than someone who closes their door. Nobody wants to go through the have to break in your house and break your windows, risk you calling the police before you even get inside. They want something easy and something that they think is going to be. And again, then that leads me to the next thing, which really, really pisses me off, is when they say that, oh my goodness, teach men not to rape. And oh my, this is the most retarded statement I've heard in a few years. How can you teach boys not to rape? I mean, I don't think little boys think I'm going to rape my friend. They're thinking I need to go find a lily so I can give this girl and show her how much I like her. They're thinking I need to go save a seat for this girl to sit next to me, or something like that. Boys do not
Yeah,
generally think.
I mean, more
Yeah,
than that, just the way that you raise boys in relation to girls. Oftentimes, a lot of young men are told you don't even put your hands on a woman. You don't even hit her or anything. So I
I
mean,
mean,
you
yeah,
grow up in a society where you're told not to even put your hands on a woman. How then do you logically delineate that it's okay to rape her?
I mean, that's the thing. I had there was one time when I did actually hit a woman. When was this? I was 9 years old. Um,
Mhm.
we were in the school. This girl was a lot bigger than I was. She was at least 4 inches taller than I was, and she was
Dang.
strong. Yeah, it was summer. She took some, some dried grass. Yeah, she took some dried grass, put it in my back, and my back was sweating. So you can see how itchy that experience was. So, uh, hello.
Still here?
Yeah. So yeah, she took the
Okay, go ahead.
dried grass, put it in my back, and my back was sweating. So you can see how itchy that experience was. So I fought back, and I think I scratched her. And our parents started talking, and then my mom told me never to hit a girl after that moment. And of course, I listened. But why is it that men cannot defend themselves from women's violent acts on them? Hello.
Hello?